Alright guys, today we're going to look at factoring ax squared plus bx plus c, but today we're going to look at when a can be anything. It could be 1, it could be a prime number, it could be a non-prime number. We're going to focus on when a isn't prime because we haven't done that before, but it's the same process as the last 2 days. It's guessing and it's checking. You just have a little more guessing and checking to do. So let's just jump right in with the problem. So number 1 is 4x squared minus 4x minus 15. Now, just like before, the very first thing you check for is a greatest common factor. And you're going to notice that 4x squared, 4x, and 15 do not have a greatest common factor. So that means we're going to have to do our factor pairs for 4 and 415. So 4 is 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. 15 is 1 times 15 and 3 times 5. So we have a lot more guessing and checking going on here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw our parentheses in. And I'm going to pick up a pencil because I'm probably going to have to erase some stuff. Now, typically, I would start with the smallest factors. They don't always work. I may have to go to 1 and 4, but I'm going to start with 2 and 2 because a lot of times, especially because 4x is kind of a small number, it might actually work. So I'm going to choose 2x and I'm going to choose 2x. Now, I can't concrete my signs in because the second sign is a negative. And because it's a negative, that means the signs are going to be different. They're pluses and minuses. I don't know where those pluses and minuses goes. Like, well, 1 plus could go here, 1 plus could go here. I don't know which one it is. So I'm going to save that for the end. And I'm going to just guess. I'm going to use 3 and 5 as my next set of factors. I'm going to put a 3 here, and I'm going to put a 5 here. I want to hope that it works. So 3 times 2x, that's going to be 6x. And 2x times 5 gives me 10x. Now, this gets me really close to my answer because I need negative 4. And because I know the signs are different, one of these has to be plus and one has to be minus. So the only way to get a negative 4 is to give negative 10 and positive 6. So negative 10 and positive 6 add up to negative 4x. So that means the positive goes right in there in front of the 3. And the negative goes right there next to the 5. Now we're still going to double check and make sure in case we made a mistake. So 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. So far we're checking off those two. And then double check the middle. 6x minus 10x is definitely negative 4. So that means we guessed on the first try. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes they work out that pretty and sometimes they don't. So when we get lucky like this, it makes things a little nice. So there's our factors. Just a reminder, it does not matter which order you write these factors in. 2x minus 5 could come before 2x plus 3. Commutative property still holds true here. So let's look at number 2. So 10x squared plus 19x plus 6. So once again, we're looking for a greatest common factor. 10, 19, and 6 do not have a greatest common factor. So we're going to have to list out our factor pairs. So 10 is 1 times 10 and 2 times 5. 6 is 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. So again, we're going to draw our parentheses in, pick up a pencil, and again, I like to start with the smallest. They may not work. I may have to navigate back to 1 and 10, but that's where I'm going to start. 2x and 5x, which gives me the 10x squared. Now, one good thing about this problem is that the signs are the exact same because the last sign is a positive. So that means we can look back to the front and both our signs are going to be pluses. So that means we can actually solidify our signs right there. They're both going to be pluses. That's going to make our job a little bit easier because guessing and checking isn't going to take as much work with the signs. So now I'm going to use 2 and 3. So I'm going to do 2 here and I'm going to do 3 here. And I'm going to guess and check. So that gives me a 10x, and this gives me a 6x. Well, those are both positive, and that adds up to 16x. I need 19, so I'm not quite there, but I'm pretty close. So I'm going to attempt to erase these and see if I switch them, maybe that'll work out. If that doesn't work, then I'm going to go up to 1 and 10. So 3 and 2. So that's going to change this to 15x. 3 times 5 is 15x. And 2x times 2x is 4x. So 15x and 4x add up to 19x. So that checks in. And then I'm going to double check my other factors just in case I messed up. So that's 10x squared, check. 2 times 3 is 6, check. And that's definitely 15x and 4x, which is 19x. So these are the factors, and I only had to guess twice. Now, sometimes you're going to have to guess 5, 6, 7 times until you get it right. But sometimes they work out pretty quickly. All right, number 3. We have 9x squared minus 24x plus 12. So hopefully the first thing you thought of was that, hey, these have a greatest common factor. And you would be right. They have a greatest common factor of 3. So we're going to factor out a 3, and that's going to give us 3x squared minus 8x plus 4. So notice by factoring out that 3, this made this problem much more manageable. So if I was to guess 1 and 9 and 3 and 3, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, there would have been a lot of factors here to check. 2 pairs here and 3 pairs here. Lots of combinations. Now all I have here is 1 times 3 and 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. So this one works out like the one we did yesterday. So 3, well, that makes it easy because I know it's got to be a 1x and a 3x. So x and 3x. The signs make it easy too, because since the second sign is a positive, that means both signs are going to be a negative if you look to the front. So we can go ahead and concrete our signs in as well. But now here's where we're going to have to do a little guessing and checking. So again, I like to start with the 2, so I'm going to see if 2 works. So I have negative 6x and negative 2x. Negative 6x and negative 2x adds up to negative 8x. So that would be the correct factors. So our answer is going to be 3 times x minus 2 times 3x minus 2. And if you were to multiply these back, you would get this top answer. So let's check it out. X times 3x is 3x squared. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Negative 6x and negative 2x is negative 8x. Then when you multiply the GCF back, 3 times 3 is 9x squared. 3 times negative 8 is negative 24x. And 3 times 4 is 12. So our answer checks out. Okay, so I'm going to let you try number 4. So number 4 has 8x cubed minus 14x squared plus 6x. And remember, the very first thing you should check for is a greatest common factor. So when you're done, unpause the video and see if you got your answer correct. All right, so this one might have been a little more frustrating because you had to factor out a 2x. Now remember, we really only factor quadratics, meaning it has an x squared. This one has an x cubed. So at this point, that should be kind of a bell that says, hey, we probably have an x we need to factor out, and we do. But we also have a 2 because each of these numbers is even. So 2x comes out. We have 4x squared minus 7x plus 3, which makes the problem a little easier. But we do have several pairs to try for 4. So notice I tried 2 and 2 first, and they did not work. I only had one pair to try for 3, so no matter where I put it, it wasn't going to work. So then I tried 1 and 4. And notice I got negative 4x and negative 3x, which is negative 7x. So this is the correct answer. Okay, that one took a little more work because you had to do a GCF and you had to check more factors for the first number. All right, number 5. I'm going to let you try number 5 as well. So this is 6x squared minus 11x minus 2. So pause the video, and when you're ready, turn it back on. All right, hopefully you're ready. So this is what we should have gotten, 6x plus 1 and x minus 2. 2 and 3 didn't work, although that is where I started. I had to use 1 and 6. And this is our final answer. So double check, 6x times x is 6x squared. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. X minus 12x is negative 11x. All right, one more, number 6. 2x squared plus 22x plus 60. So you try this one. When you're ready, unpause the video. All right, so we should have liked this one because if you factored out the 2 like you're supposed to, you would have seen that x squared plus 11x plus 30 was the leftovers. And that's a fairly easy one to factor because that's what we did 2 days ago. So that would have given us x plus 5 and x plus 6. So always, always, always check for your GCF. It's going to A, make the problem easier, and B, it's the only way to factor completely. Because if you had not, you would have had to have an extra factor in here that you would have had to factor out. So always, always, always check for the GCF first.